Hi, I'm Luis.
And I'm Diana, and today we have a lot of movies that we're going to be talking about. There's 8 movies that came out this year that we're going to be talking about, and the reason being that Luis is like, well, just watch whatever you want.
Right.
And then, of course, we decided to watch 3 movies kind of together, but apart. So, yeah, we have a lot for you today, and it includes the movies that we watched together were like Jungle Cruise. I'd never seen that movie before. And do you remember what else, Luis? What did we watch?
Free
In the
Guy.
Heights?
Yeah, Free Guy and The
Yes.
Heights. Yeah, those were the three
In
that we watched together. Uh huh.
Right. Okay, so then we're gonna start off right away with the movies because like I said, we have a bunch, and I guess we'll probably try to tell you where we saw these as well in case you're interested. So like the first movie that I picked out was based on what I used to love. And my sister kind of told me about this movie because she knows that I used to like watching Bob Ross paint. And there's a movie about him on Netflix. It's called Bob Ross Happy Accidents, Betrayal, and Greed, which sounded totally interesting to me. So it's like his son talking about what happened, like with him growing up and being his son, and like with his paintings, and what happened after he passed away as well. Because I mean, sometimes I think we don't even know that he passed away because he's
Mm-hmm.
still quite popular. So like now his son is telling the true story of the company because there's a lot of merchandise, like a lot of Bob Ross merchandise. And if some of you don't know, he's like the artist that paints a lot of landscapes, and they're so pretty. And when I was younger, I used to stay home from school, and I used to like watch him paint. And you always think that you can paint as good as he can, but of course we can't. But yeah, so this is a documentary, and if any of you are interested, like I said, it's on Netflix. I gave this a rating of 3.5 stars because I think documentaries are really hard to rate like too high, just because it's a matter of opinion as to like what you think of it, like how interested you are in the subject and that kind of thing. So for me, I rated it 3.5 stars. So Luis, now we move on to Free Guy, which came out this year, and it has Ryan Reynolds as well as Julie Comer. So,
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna try to give a little summary about it or the plot, pretty much. But you saw this one, so if I kind of forget something, just feel free to chime in or help me out. Well, pretty much the this Ryan Reynolds, he's a character in a video game, but he doesn't realize that he's a character in a video game. It's pretty much like he gains sentience, and they're like, so it's kind of two stories
y-
taking place at the same time. Like one is in the video game world, and one is in the outside world. So what else can you add to this?
well, I mean, I have the questions that I was going to ask you, so maybe I should just ask you some questions to get into it, because you have more to say about it than I think I do. So, like, it for me, it's not the kind of movie that I would have watched
Uh huh.
normally.
Right.
But because you're like, you need to watch this, I was like, okay. So it's more about things that I don't really know as much about. So like I was like watching it with like
Mm-hmm.
a new
Okay.
perspective, I guess you could say.
Right.
So it's like you said, it's like a combination of what's happening in the real world as well as inside a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna ask a few questions, and then maybe that will kind of get us to be able to explain this a little bit better. So this is gonna sound funny because like it's just a normal question, but what is your favorite ice cream?
Uh, probably Rocky Road, maybe like because it's like chocolate and nuts and like marshmallows. So I'd say that because it's kind of like a little mixture. I have a question for you too, then, like because so did you ever play video games when you were younger, or did you have a favorite video game that you would play, or a system or anything like that?
No, like I tell you, I don't really I've never played a video
Are you
games and I don't really
serious?
know about this kind of thing. So
Wow.
no, sorry, I don't.
Your brothers,
So
your sisters, anybody, or friends were into video games or not really?
No, I think that's more like a guy
Oh, you
thing,
think
and
so?
maybe I had like a friend or somebody that played it, but I didn't really go to her house that much.
Right.
And so, like, no, I was out of that kind of world and that kind of thing, so I don't know
Okay.
much about gaming, you know.
Yeah. So then this whole thing was foreign to you in a way because they had a lot of like
Mm.
references like that. I guess people that play video games or modern games, they would kind of get, So that's okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All
To me,
right.
it seemed a little bit more like The Matrix, I guess. Like, I liked The Matrix, even though I
Yeah.
didn't play games or knew what was going on, but I knew I had to do a lot with computers and
Mm-hmm.
technology and stuff.
Right.
So, okay, then let me ask you this other question. Does the people who wear sunglasses are heroes in this movie? They run the town, they get to do anything they want. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyways, I know that you wear sunglasses more than the average person, don't you?
Yeah. Right.
And yeah, I thought so. And so, after watching this movie, Free Guy, do you feel different about wearing sunglasses?
Um. Well, not really. If anything, I thought it was cool that they were wearing sunglasses, and I don't know if you kind of got it, but because they mentioned it in the movie, but like it's kind of NPC is like a non-player character, so those are pretty much
Hmm.
like that's like programming. That's pretty much like computer programming. And then the
Right?
people that were wearing the sunglasses, those were like the human people that would log in and play the games. That's how they were distinguished, like from real
Hmm.
people to I guess the computers kind of thing.
Okay.
You got that part kind of? You understood that, right?
Yeah, yeah. I knew that, there
Okay.
were the people playing the games and then there
Mhm.
were people in there and then they had the people inside the game that
Which
had
were
sunglasses
Yeah,
that had
yeah.
more power.
Well, yeah. Well, that was them. Like when they were playing outside in the real world, it was them. And then when they would like log in and create their characters or be the avatar in the game, that like they would be the ones wearing sunglasses. And that's the thing that, like when Ryan Reynolds put on sunglasses, like the computer character put on sunglasses, that's what kind of threw the whole thing off because he's programming. He's not supposed to be like sentient or have like emotions or thoughts, but he was like like the abnormality kind of thing. So that's kind of how the movie kind of goes about because you're like, but there's like a whole story going on outside about like a program that they designed, like this woman designed with her partner, and it's like
Hmm.
that program gained like it was pretty much stolen from them in a way. Like it's an interesting like story. So um I don't know. I would recommend it. I would say like maybe like four stars for me. I don't know what you thought about it, how many stars you would give it, and the main reason I liked it was like, well, Ryan Reynolds, he's an actor I like to follow, and then just the whole story, like video games, and they did like references, and it's a nerdy movie, so I enjoyed it because it's kind of for my kind of crowd, I guess. So I don't know what you thought, since it's not really something you typically watch, like you were saying.
Well, at first I thought it was kind of absurd,
Yeah.
because a lot of the superhero movies are in these kind of movies too.
Hmm.
But then I got into it because like it's not just about the people inside the game, it's
Hmm.
also like the persons that are outside and like you said, it was two characters and it was a guy and a girl and they created this game, but then there's this guy who's trying to steal like this game from them, like kind of steal the information to
Hmm.
make his own new game, and he doesn't want to give them credit
Yeah.
for what they've already created. So it's them and they're trying to like save their game, and then they eventually try to get the characters inside the game to
Hmm.
help them to
Right.
save the game as well. So I gave it 4 stars
Okay.
actually, just like you did.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. No, I'm glad you enjoyed it actually. Like, something that I guess we're not used to really watching, So that's
Yeah.
good. What's your next movie?
Okay, so I did Diana the musical. So this came out this year, like just recently on Netflix. And I I always was like very intrigued by Princess Diana. Even before she died, I was
Hmm.
writing papers about
Oh.
her. And it's kind of because like her name
Hmm.
is my name in English,
Right.
but also because she was a royal and that kind of thing. So I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, what's this musical going to be about? Am I going to like it? So of course I was curious right away and I watched it. I think they did it mainly because it was during the time of COVID
Hmm.
and they couldn't really be on stage as much. So I think that was their way of being able to do this musical and like perform it and then send it out kind of thing to the masses. But I thought it was just okay. Like I didn't think it was great or
Hmm.
anything. I like seeing the costumes because you get to see some of the clothes, iconic clothes that she wore, and that kind of thing. So I thought that was good, and some of the music was good, but I just thought I don't know, it was cheesy at times and just I don't know.
Right.
So for me, I give it 3 stars. I didn't think it was horrible, but I didn't really think it was awesome or great either. So I gave it 3 stars, and with that, we move on to another musical that I've been wanting to watch a lot. Like, I mean, for a while, even though it just came out this year also. It's In the Heights. It came out, and like I said, this year, and it has Anthony Ramos, Corey Hawkins, Leslie Grace, and Melissa Barrera. So, what did you think about this movie, and what was it about?
Well, this movie I actually I like musicals to begin with. Um, there's we kind of talked
Okay.
about musicals in the past that we kind of like thought were a little overhyped. Like La La Land, I didn't like it as much. I know people liked it a lot, but to me it really
Hmm.
wasn't. It wasn't all that great. I think if not for Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, I don't think I would have liked it anywhere close to what I did because I thought it was like like whatever. Um, like if you asked me to rate that one, I would say like 3 stars for that one for La La Land.
I
Um,
totally agree with that. Mhm.
but this one, like, I mean, I had watched Hamilton, and I know you want to watch Hamilton because earlier there was on Disney Plus, so they showed that. And before that, I kind of heard the soundtrack and stuff. So yeah, and then Lin Manuel Miranda, or he also had because this was also like a stage. I think this was on Broadway or on stage, right? So they just kind of adapted it into a movie, and I liked it. I was surprised about it. And I had a question for you, which I'll ask you in a bit, I guess. But first, I'll kind of maybe summarize the kind of the movie. But it's pretty much like several people living in like pretty much in a community in New York City, and they're all like Hispanic people. They're all pretty much immigrants, or have descendancy from, Dominican Republic, Cuba, Mexico. Like they're pretty much immigrants in the United States, and they all have like a little dream, and that's what the theme of the movie is. Like they call it sueñito, which is a small dream, and pretty much they're like a very like tight knit community, and there's like different characters that are going through different things, and that I mean, things happen, and I like the music. I like the music. I like the singers, the actors. So I actually would give it 4.25 stars. What did you think about it, and what would you rate it?
Well, at first, it was like I started watching it, but I wasn't really concentrating as much as I should have. So I kind of had to go back again
Hmm.
because I'm like, I'm really not doing what I should be doing, which is
Hmm.
paying attention. I think a lot of times when we're at home,
Right.
we tend to like think that we can just like do other things, and
Hmm.
like multitask. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna really pay attention to this movie. And when I did, I was really happy that I did. And like you said, there's other musicals that people hype up, and I want to hype this up because this is the kind of
Hmm.
movie that I think that I would watch again and again.
Right.
And when I see a movie like that I know that I'll probably want to watch again, then I have to give it a five
Yeah.
star rating. So this was a great movie. I loved it a lot. I love the music, the characters, the storyline was at first I didn't follow when I wasn't paying attention.
Right.
But if you pay attention, then you'll know that there's this character and his name is Usnavi, and he is the one telling the story about what happened. He grew up with this one lady that kind of was like the mother to the whole community, and they all had their own dreams, but because of being like Hispanic, sometimes it's a little bit
Hmm.
harder and stuff. And
Right.
like he was, I think, pretty much an orphan because his parents are not around, but he
Hmm.
still has a store that he keeps, and of course he has a crush on this girl that comes into the store, and he always buys her like lets her have coffee on the house, and she doesn't get it, like
Uh-huh.
she just thinks that they're friends and stuff, but he doesn't have the courage to ask her out or anything. But it's him and his cousin, and then there's other people in the community, and it's a really like interesting, good
Hmm.
story about how he's trying to figure out where he's going in life, and he even thinks that he has to move away for his dreams to come true. And a lot of them think the
Yeah.
same thing, that they need to go somewhere else. But sometimes it's not like where you go, but like what you do for your dreams to come true kind of thing. And so
Hmm.
I love I love this movie and I recommend it highly, especially if you love musicals, and that kind of thing.
Right. So what would you rate it?
Five
Five
stars for me.
stars. Yeah. So that's one that you would buy, right? Well, obviously, right? Yeah. And
Yeah.
going back to the name Usnavi, because Usnavi was U.S. Navy, right? That was pretty funny. Uh,
I think he said that his parents saw or his dad saw a ship and said that he was going to name his son after that ship. And it just so happened that it was U.S.
yeah.
Navy. And of course, Spanish pronunciation turns out to be Usnavi,
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
yes.
Yeah. That's funny. Because also like there's a soccer player, and he plays for Colombia, and his name is James, like James Rodriguez, but it's spelled
Mm-hmm.
James, like James, like, but it's James, like, okay, like, and he always corrects people, like when they say, "Oh, you mean James Rodriguez?" Like, no, 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 James, like, it's kind of funny, like, just the pronunciation, like, it's the same spelling and everything, but no, no, it's pronounced this way. So it's kind of funny like that. And going with that, like, if you could change your name to another name, not that you don't like your name or anything, but what would you change your name to if you were to change your name?
Well, when I was younger, I really didn't like my name as much because people
Uh-huh.
there's the English version, like I said, it's pronounced Diana in English,
Right.
and I never really liked that pronunciation. So like I'm like it's Diana, and always my friends would like correct all the substitute teachers and the teachers
Mm-hmm.
that were new. And then so I didn't like my name for the longest time,
Mm-hmm.
and then my friend looked it up in the dictionary, and I found out it meant moon goddess,
Uh,
Artemis, goddess of hunting, protectress of all women. So then I'm like, hey, my name is not a bad name. But so now I'm okay with it. But I think if I could, like for a long time, like I wanted to change my name to Nandri. Like I
Nandri?
picked, yeah, I picked this name Nandri, and then since I write, I have like
It's-
characters that I've named, and then later on I named one of my characters Nandrianica, and all
Oh,
these characters had long names.
oh,
So I always thought, like I needed like a cool,
uh-huh.
like first, middle, and last name because I don't have a middle name either. So I'm
Hmm.
just like, okay, Nandri would be my first name, and then like the rest.
Wow.
So yeah.
So what
What
would be
about you?
the name? Like Canandri, and then like the middle name? What would be the middle name?
I don't know. Like I think my character that I named for the story that I had was like um Nandri Jillian or something like that, or I don't know. Like I can't remember now. Like it was a long name though, and my mom's
Uh,
like, "Well, how are we supposed to remember any of these characters? They have such
uh,
long names." And I'm like, "Well, people that want to remember will.
oh,
So
that's funny.
anyway, so like I
Yeah,
know that you mentioned that you don't always love your name, and
yeah.
so what about you?
Well, I think my names are like too common. Well, like in the Mexican communities and stuff, there's always like it's always like Juan, Jose, Maria, like kind of thing. Luis is kind of there too, I would think. Like, and also Luis, like if
Mm-hmm.
there's a word for it, but I forgot what it is. Like if you say like a word over and over, it kind of like lose it. It kind of becomes numb. I don't know, like Luis, Luis. I don't know, because I've said it several times. Like saying yeah. I don't. What would my name be? No, I don't really like Luis, but now it's kind of, what else would I be called? So it's kind of like, it is what it is. But maybe like a Michael, or an Aaron, something like that. Like, mm,
So you want an English name or something, right?
no, like no, like not. I think Aaron works because it's kind of like it's English and
Aaron.
Spanish. Aaron or
Right.
Aaron. Like Michael would be like
Okay.
Miguel Michael, but then you have to spell it different, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then Louis, and then Louis. Some people say Louis, but then Louis is also like a girl's name if you spell it differently, like Loise, right? So,
Oh,
uh,
that's Luis,
yeah, I
not
know,
Luis.
but
So
some
it's
people say it
different.
the same. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe an Aaron, or a Jacob, something
I
biblical,
I
maybe.
I think most girls they have Luisa as their names,
Yeah, yeah,
not Luis.
yeah, yeah.
So
No, I know. Right.
so so anyway, I have a question for you. How many languages do you know or can you speak, and what language do you wish you could speak or understand?
Well, I'm fluent in English and Spanish because my mom is only a Spanish speaker, so she's Mexican. So I'm fluent. I'm fluidly fluent in Spanish. So I speak English and Spanish, and if I could know another language, it would be like I think Italian and Portuguese would be kind of they sound similar. There's some kind of the base. There's like a similarity in those languages, so I would really like to maybe know those languages. And then, well, Japanese would be something like way out there, but that would be something interesting to know. I mean, you asked me one language, but I said three, so I'd say like that, like Japanese and then Portuguese and Italian. What about yourself? Like, I don't know, how many languages do you speak? And if you could learn any or know any language, what would that be?
Well, I mostly speak English, but I understand 95% of Spanish.
Messenger.
Like in Belize, most
Now,
people speak
Mariana
Spanglish,
Zuniga.
so it's not
Is
like
this you?
proper
Question
Spanish.
marks.
But
HTTPS
like I think if I could
//
speak another
35
language, I would
PK
go with you in
EF.
Italian because I think that would be like an easier one to learn after knowing Spanish. Like I was reading a John Grisham book where the character was in Italy, and I swear that when I was reading that book, that I understood Italian because he had a
Oh,
lot
wow.
of stuff in Italian, and I could like figure out what it was that the character was trying to say. So I think Italian would be good, like you said,
Right.
and French. Learning how to speak French
Oh,
would be
yeah.
kind of chic. So that would be my other language that I think
Oh,
would be kind of
nice.
cool to learn.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, French would be nice to know. French would actually be pretty cool to know. Okay, and then there was a theme in this movie also. It had to do with the lottery. So let's say you were to win I don't know if like a big amount. Let's say like maybe 100,000. Let's say if you were to win
Mhm.
100,000 in the lottery, what would you do with that money, or what would you spend it on?
Oh man, everyone wishes they could win the lottery. I think pretty much anywhere. I'm not one of those people that buys tickets, but in Belize, people play like different games where they can
Mm-hmm.
win money.
Right.
So I think I would just travel from Belize to Michigan like I do now and just keep visiting family and friends. Also, I think I would build my house on my land.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
In
then save money for the future because I like know that that money can't just like last forever if you
right.
squander it. So I would say those would be my top three things that I would do. How about you?
Right. Well, especially because like 100,000 is not like even a million nowadays, which is crazy. That some people say that even a million isn't enough, which is insane to me. But yeah, 100,000. If I had that amount, um, I would use it for my mom. Either buy her a house or a new car, one or the other, kind of thing. So yeah, that's what it would be for me. And I do play the scratch offs, and there was a time that well, I had asked my sister to scratch it for me, and I had bought like 5 tickets, and they were all like $2 tickets, so it was like $10. So it wasn't all that much, whatever. And I didn't believe it when she was like telling me like, cause she was all like excited and like screaming and stuff, cause she said she scratched it and it said, oh look, it says $1,000, and I was like, are you serious? And then she scratched it again, and it said, look, another thousand, and then she scratched it like a third time, and she says 3,000. So she was saying 3,000. She was screaming. I was like, "Are you serious?" I couldn't believe that because I've never like the most I've won has been like maybe $50, which is still like that's already something, obviously. But to have won 3,000, I was like, wow, very surprised that because the whole time I think it's like, oh yeah, you never win. It's always kind of rigged. You always get like small numbers or whatever. But that time I was like, oh wow, like I was surprised, very surprised and blessed for sure. So no, but
So
that's
how was that the one?
what was
How
that?
long how long ago was it that you won?
It was 2011. Like it
Oh,
was,
okay.
yeah, it was like Memorial Day 2011 or something like that. It was like at the end of the year. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, but yeah, I paid off like a good amount of my credit cards, so that was, I mean, it was good. It was very good.
Yeah.
So I think that's it
But it
for. Hmm.
fast, huh? It
Oh, it did it.
disappeared fast.
Oh yeah, yeah, it went by super fast. Like a lot of eating, a lot of like, well, paying off this, and then kind of giving money to some friends too here and there. But yeah, it's kind of like, yeah. I mean, it's crazy that it happened. I can't believe that happened to begin with. So yeah. So I think we're pretty much done with that movie. What's your next movie?
Okay, so this is an older movie, a little bit older. It's called Flipped, and it's on Netflix, and it came out in 2010. It has Madeline Carroll, Colin McAuliffe, and Rebecca De Moyne, as well as Anthony Edwards. And this is a movie about two young kids. They're like in eighth grade, but they're growing up in the 1960s. And of course, it's about like, your first crush, maybe. So this girl, like she lives in a neighborhood where this boy moves into, and her family is kind of messy, has a messy yard and everything. And his family looks down on her, like family, for the way that they live. But, she continues having a crush on him, and he's just like, I don't understand. I don't know why. And like, he kind of avoids her when he can. But anyway, this movie is told from two perspectives. It's told from her perspective. So you see like her version of what happens. And then he has his version. So it's kind of like her version is like, like I have a crush on him, and she sees it in a completely different light. But it's really a cute movie. I think it's not like a movie just for like
Yeah.
young kids. Like I think it's a movie for everyone. So I rated this movie and I gave it 5 stars
Oh,
because this
wow.
is definitely a movie that I would watch again and again. And I think it's also based on a book. So
Wow.
it is once again it's called Flipped, and I highly recommend it. Like I
That's
said, a
that's cool.
5-star rating from
Because
me.
I had been wanting to watch that movie sometime. Because I remember I was kind of scrolling through movies sometime back, and I was like, this movie seems interesting. Just the whole, yeah. Because I read the little bit of the plot, but I never got around to see it. But now I'll probably want to check it out even more. Because I remember, yeah. That's pretty awesome. So 5 stars. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool,
Yes,
cool.
yes, you should definitely watch it for sure.
Okay.
And so then our next movie, you watched it quite a while ago, or when it first came out, and I just watched it like today. So this is Jungle Cruise. It came out this year. It has Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, as well as Emily Blunt. And so, can you tell us about this movie as well as your rating?
Okay. Well, for sure, gonna have to help me because, like I said, like for you it's fresh, and for me it's been a couple of months now. Uh, but pretty much the gist of it is like, because I don't want to spoil things about it. Okay. Well, the main thing is there's like this. It's a lot like Pirates of the Caribbean, and that's the whole thing about it too. Because it's a ride on Disney that they just kind of made into a movie, so they're really making like their money's worth with all these things. So it's pretty much like there's this. I mean, it's a woman, right? Emily Blunt and her brother. They're trying to find this like legendary or mythical type of. It's like a tree or like a plant, and it's supposed to like heal people of diseases. And so pretty much it's like something it's a myth, but she believes it's real. So the whole time she's trying to get funding to go like on an expedition to look for it, and she thinks she knows where it's at based on all these like maps, maps that she's collected and things like that. So that's when she kind of finds the Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, to be like the guide for this expedition. So they get on this like his rinky dinky like boat, and that's pretty much the premise of it. I don't know what else you want to add to that without giving like too much away.
Oh, well, I probably shouldn't say too much more then. It's just pretty like adventure action packed, and a lot goes on in it. It has like pretty much all the Disney things. It's entertaining. It has good music. Scenery is great. Costumes are great. So like I mean a lot of the stuff is just like I think it could be for any age group.
Hmm.
So like pretty much all I have to add, except for I do have a couple questions for you based on this movie.
Okay.
So
Before you
are
ask
you
me, I
ready?
guess I'll just say I would say for me the rating would be like a 3.75. That's what I would rate it. What would you rate it?
Okay. I gave it a higher rating than you then. I gave it a 4.5
Oh
stars.
wow.
So I thought it was better like than I expected, I guess you could say.
Okay.
And I also considered like the fact that it has like a wide audience. It could be for like so many people.
Right, right.
Plus of course The Rock is like a big draw in, and
Right.
yeah, you know what? I remembered that you were talking about his jokes, and I
Uh-huh.
just remember something. Like I've always thought that Luis has some pretty cheesy jokes,
Well, they're pretty hilarious. I think they're hilarious.
and well, I guess so does The Rock in this movie. And I'm like, well, they're both just as bad.
Yeah.
But the reason why I say that is because one of the first jokes that Luis sent me was this: "I have a joke for you," and I'm like, okay. And he sends me this joke, and it said,
Can I let me I ca-
dishes.
let
It
me
said dishes, and it
no.
said Sean Connery, and I'm like, what? do dishes and Sean Connery have to do with each other, right?
Yeah.
So this is his favorite joke to tell, and I think he's telling it to everyone. And one time he told it to someone, and he's like, "She didn't get my joke," and I'm like, "That's a horrible joke." First of all, and then he's like, and she didn't get it because she didn't even know who Sean Connery was.
Right.
And I thought that was even funnier than the joke. So,
Yeah.
so can you explain the joke to us?
Well,
Do you want
you
to?
kind of gave the punchline away, but I'll give another one because I love dad jokes, right? So, okay, this is a new one, which is hilarious
No,
to
I
me.
didn't give the punchline away because
No, yeah, you did.
you don't want to do it then.
Oh,
You don't want to do
it's
the
because you gave the
accent.
punchline because you did it. Like, because this was like, okay, let's see. You have to play along, man, obviously, and then I'll tell you my new awesome joke. Okay, so it's like knock knock,
Who's there?
dishes.
This is who?
This is Sean Connery. So it's gotta be like the accent, like because he always had like that European accent, So this is Sean Connery, Well, obviously not.
I think my 5-year-old niece could come up with a better joke. And
That's-
so I just thought it was funny when
uh-huh.
his joke totally flopped.
Uh,
When he tried to tell it to someone else, and
Uh.
she didn't even know who Sean Connery was.
well, I'm all for
But,
5, but some
But yeah,
eventually,
pretty much at the
eventually.
beginning of the movie, he's trying to tell these jokes and nobody's laughing. It's the same.
I was laughing.
thing,
I was
so.
laughing. Like I was laughing so much.
because they were bad.
See, but that's how I was like, man, these are genius jokes. Like this one. This is a new one. This is a new one. Okay, like okay, what's this? Why didn't the toilet paper make it across the street?
Oh no, not this joke.
Uh,
He only has 2 jokes. He has
Oh,
the
come
Sean
on.
Connery one and this one.
Okay, well, because you got stuck in a crack.
Bye.
Yeah. All right. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. Okay.
All right, all right.
All right.
Moving on. So I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If the moon had a reason to cry, do you think they are happy or sad tears? And what might the moon be crying about?
I think it's sad tears, and it's kind of like because of the bad complexion, like all these craters, like if the moon has a face, like all these craters and pimples. So I'd say like they're like sad tears, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And also maybe sad tears from being like so far away from Earth, maybe like because there's all these like legends, like I don't know. So I would say like sad tears. What do you think? Like since you have a big imagination, what would you say?
Well, I said sad tears too, but I said that the moon is crying about air pollution
Oh,
as well
wow.
as all the shady and dark things people
Okay.
think they can get away with in the shadows of the night. So sad tears is what I
Okay.
say.
What about since this is like a movie or about like the Jungle Cruise? Let's say if you were to be get on a cruise to anywhere in the world, where would you want to travel and why? Like what country and for what reason, or what place?
I don't know. I'm not really like the idea of a cruise doesn't really appeal to me that much. Like being on one of those big ships or anything.
Mhm.
Especially, and I said to someone, it seems to me like every time anyone goes on a cruise, they get murdered. But I
Or
guess it's
stranded,
because I
yeah.
listen to a lot of the crime podcasts.
Yeah. Right.
So it makes me nervous to think about going on a cruise. Like, and then I'm a little bit of a germaphobe, and it just seems like you'd be around too many people. So I think like a quiet river cruise wouldn't be so bad, or on a tropical jungle cruise like they showed in this movie.
Uh-huh.
I could go for that, but I don't know if I would want to go on like a big other kind of cruise,
Right. Okay.
So
Okay.
that's what I think about that.
Okay.
What about you? Think you would want to go on a cruise like the one that they had, or something else, or
Like
skip it altogether?
a fancy one, maybe not like theirs. If anything, and maybe like to France, since you mentioned France earlier. Like maybe like a, but I'm more of a homebody anyway, though. but yeah, yeah, I'd say France. If it was like a location to go to, I'd say France.
Okay. Here's my other question for you. If you lived for over 300 years, what do you think you would do with your time?
Well, I'd be eating a lot more than likely. Like probably. I said I'm more of a homebody, but if I had 300 years, like I'd be traveling a lot, just kind of like exploring the world or seeing like different things. and tasting all kinds of
Yeah.
food, tasting like pretty much all kinds of food and meeting like all kinds of people, really. So I think that'd be the main thing if I had that much time. Like, yeah, like 300 years is a long time. What about yourself? If you had all that time, what would you be doing?
I said the same thing. I would travel more because you'd have more
Mm-hmm.
time. And I also thought probably I would be reading a lot more books. I also thought maybe I'd want to write more books too, to
Uh-huh.
just give people, like insights of things that I've learned over the times that I've lived.
Right.
So, like, those would be my things that I would probably end up doing if I lived that long and I knew that
That's
I had
crazy.
forever pretty much to live.
Right.
That's what I would do.
Right. Yeah, I think we're pretty much set
So,
with that one, right?
right. So the next movie that I watched was also on Netflix. Jungle Cruise I watched on Movies Anywhere, and the same thing with another one of the movies. Can't remember which one now. But Kate was on Netflix. It came out this year. It has Mary Elizabeth Winstead as well as June Funamura and Woody Allen. So, or sorry, not Woody Allen. Woody Harrelson. And this movie, I was not very impressed by. I thought I would be because the storyline sounded interesting, but it's just so gory and so violent, and it's so like I don't know, like just not my kind of movie. It's an action movie, and it's about this woman who's like an assassin, and she, of course, when she's doing her job, like they want to get rid of her at some point. So then she ends up getting poisoned and has like 1 day left to live. And so of course they want to like like she wants to get vengeance on the person who put out this hit on her or whatever. And so that's what the movie is about, like she's supposed to be like some super like assassin, and so she's always like like cutting people and slashing them and all kinds of things. And it's just not my kind of movie. So I rated
Mm-hmm.
it 3 stars, and I just like it was too much for me. Like I don't like gore, I don't like blood, I don't like
Mm-hmm.
violence.
Mm-hmm.
And of course there was also the language, and so all that
Okay.
together just it kind of just turned me off from it. I mean, I could have given it a less, but I think, the acting was fine, the music was fine,
Right.
the cinematography was fine, but I don't know, it's just not my kind of movie. So
Right. Okay.
Kate gets 3 stars from me. And we move on to the next movie that you watched. It's called The Green Knight. Came out this year, and it has Dev Patel, Alicia Vikander, as well as Joel Edgerton. So, what about this movie, The Green Knight?
The main reason why I wanted to see this movie is because, well, I like the Arthurian type of legend. All that chivalry and all that time. The Arthur, Merlin, all that kind of story, and this kind of ties in with that. But even more than that, I wanted to see Alicia Vikander. She's like pretty much one of my favorite actresses. I like her voice, and I like the movies that I've seen of her for the most part. Maybe a couple that I didn't like at all, but this one actually was interesting. And the plot of this is pretty much like Arthurian, like it's an Arthurian tale, and it's like because it's based on like a poem, I think, or some kind of I don't know if it's a short story or a poem about the Green Knight. But in this one, they made I think his name is Gawain. I don't know. Well, pretty much the King Arthur has a nephew who's like he's
Mhm.
not a knight yet, but he's kind of like a squire. He's trying to be a knight, and he's invited to like to have dinner there at the castle on Christmas. I think it's like a Christmas Eve or something. And for whatever reason,
Yeah.
this knight, the Green Knight, he comes that night, and he says he wants to play a game with all the people that are there, or the knights that are there, and he issues a challenge. He says that he will like fight any of the knights there, and whatever like blow they give him, he will return it in a year. So whatever hit they land on him, like whatever they strike him, whatever body part and with whatever weapon, like he will return that same strike in a year's time. So pretty much all the knights like are, I guess, scared of him because he's like a huge man, but for whatever reason, Gawain, he's like, I don't know, maybe he was drinking too much or something, but the blow he gives him is pretty much he beheads him. So you know, so pretty much it's like there's blood, and you know the knight is there without the head and the body, and you know everyone's like, oh well, I guess that was it, you know. But then the knight gets up, you know, carrying the head, his head on the side, and then he just kind of like he gets on his horse and he puts his head on his head, and he just starts laughing as he's like driving, like, you know, riding away on his horse. So pretty much Gawain now has a year's time to make like a journey to, I guess, the forest, and that's where the Green Knight lives, and the Green Knight would be there waiting for him to return that same blow. So in a year's time, Gawain has to pretty much travel to the knight's house and, you know, let the knight behead him, because that's part of the game. And had he done any other thing, like just strike him in the chest or strike him in the like a body part other than the head, you know, he would have survived. But now it's kind of like, is he gonna do it, or is, you know, what's he gonna, how's he gonna approach this you know, this journey, you know? So it's an interesting tale, you know, and there's like different things that happen throughout the way and different
So
kind of
what's your
tests.
rating for this?
um I'd say a 4. I was a little, yeah, I enjoyed it more than I thought, so a 4.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and if I had a question based on this, then for you, let's say you had a year to live, like not from disease or anything like that. What would you do during that year? Like if you knew it was like a year that was your last year of life, what would you do during that year?
I would probably visit my friends, my family, and spend as much time with whoever wanted to spend time with me. Maybe I'd write letters to everyone else, you know, or a book to anyone who wanted to hear from me, or that could benefit from hearing from me, I guess, for one last time.
Right.
I mean, that's all you can do, and then like maybe just other things that I haven't finished or thought that I should finish. Maybe I would add some stuff that I haven't even made a bucket list, but maybe I would make one up then or something, you know. So,
Right.
what about you? What do you think you would do?
Probably the same thing, really. Like enjoy as much time with the people that you love, that you care about. Like not waste time for sure. Because if you know you have a year, like you're gonna try to do something just about every day. You know, especially with, you know, loved ones. Try things that you haven't tried before. Maybe like, I don't know, like a lot of traveling. I'm assuming a lot of just, you know, making the best of every day, really. Like, and that's something we should do to begin with already, you know, because we never know when sadly, you know, tragedies happen. But if you knew like you had a year, like literally, you know, like I'm sure you would spend your time like more wisely and stuff and make the best of every day, you know. But that's something we should do, you know, like I was saying. It's just hard to do sometimes because we think like we never think about
Yeah,
it. But yeah.
yeah, and a year goes by pretty
Oh
fast
yeah.
too, but some people think they have that long, and then, like you said, you just don't know. So yeah. So are you ready for me to tell you the next movie that I watched?
Yeah. Yeah. Go for it.
Okay, so I watched this older movie that came out in 2010. It's Letters to Juliet, and it has Amanda Seyfried, Christopher Egan, and Gael Garcia Bernal,
Oh,
as
cool.
well as Vanessa Redgrave. So this movie was I don't know, like I guess you could, because she's Amanda Seyfried has lighthearted and she's cute, you know. So she's more like a rom-com kind of person, but I don't know if this is that rom-commy. Like I think it's like a romantic movie more than anything, but it is light. It's not too dramatic. So, you know, like she is her and her guy that she's with, pretty much her fiance, they go away before they are going to get married on a trip, but then they end up spending most of it apart, and then she starts writing letters in Italy because that's where they're at. And she's writing like these people write like these broken-hearted love letters, and then this group of ladies in Italy answer these letters, and then so she ends up getting like entwined into this like love story that happened ages ago, and she's in search of this one person, and then she meets a guy that's like, oh, you know, like this is like he's not romantic at all or whatever. At least it doesn't appear. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's a love story. It's like two love stories, like most of those love letter
Mm-hmm.
stories. So it is a little bit kind of predictable, but it's lighthearted and it's good. And I gave it 4.5 stars,
Oh,
and this movie is on Netflix now. So
right,
if you haven't seen it yet, it's a good movie. And like I said, the best rating I could give it was 4.5 star because it is a little bit predictable, but it
right.
is a movie that could watch over again. So
Wow. That
that
reminded
is,
me. That reminded me of
you
that
have
other
watched,
movie that we had watched. Remember the last letter to your lover? Kind of the plot is
yeah,
similar to that, so that's interesting.
yeah. And the thing is, I think I've seen this movie, but I think it was a year where I watched a bunch of movies.
Hmm.
So I kind of didn't really remember it. So I just watched it again
Hmm.
and kind of remembered it as it went on, but it like my mind just couldn't recall like everything that was going to happen.
Right.
So yes, it's called Letters to Juliet. And then the next movie that you have on your list is The Tomorrow War, which came out this year. I think it was supposed to come out last year, and it has Chris Pratt. So can you tell us about this movie?
Okay, I'm gonna try to make this as short as I can. Which, okay, so pretty much like imagine we're in this time. Obviously, hard to imagine. So you're living in this time, and out of nowhere, like, because the way it started was it's not a spoiler. Like they're watching like the World Cup. So this is like the soccer World Cup. So the year's probably
Mm-hmm.
2022, and then out of nowhere, like this, like people appear out of nowhere, like and they tell them that in 30 years the humanity will be wiped out by aliens, and that they have 30 years to try to prepare for this. So pretty much people from the future traveled back in time 30 years to try to warn humanity so that we would be prepared for the invasion. So that's pretty much the plot and the premise. And then so they kind of start drafting like civilians randomly and sending them to the future, but not all the way, just in hopes of like being able to fight off the aliens. So it's one of those sci-fi movies, and it was more interesting than I thought it would be. So I would say like 3.5 stars. It's still like not a great like rating for me, but it's entertaining. It's not the best, but I don't think you would enjoy it. But yeah, my brother liked it. Some of my friends liked it. So for me, it was a 3.5. Um, and to that plot or whatever, that kind of scenario. Like let's say you could travel either to
Mm-hmm.
the past or to the present. I mean, to the past or to the future. Where would you choose to travel, and why would you travel to that particular time if you're able to?
Okay, well, the future to me sounds like a scary place
Uh
to
huh.
go. So I'd probably go back in time, maybe to see how my parents may have lived. Because I've heard like a lot of the stories that they tell about back in the day,
Mhm.
and to me, it kind of just sounds interesting, and it would be kind of fun to see them when they were younger and how they used to be and that kind of thing. So, because you always hear stories from like maybe your parents, your
Right.
mom, or your dad, and you always wonder if like what they're saying is really
Uh huh.
true or if they're like exaggerating it. So,
Right.
to me, I think I would feel more comfortable going back in time than I would feel like going into the future because, like I said, that just sounds like
Right.
kind of scary.
Oh.
So, definitely back in time for me. What
Mhm.
about you?
I'd want to travel to the future. I guess if the question was like maybe because 30 years in the past or 30 years to the future, I'd probably say 30 years to the future kind of thing. Because just to know what the world's like technology wise and just everything. And then it could be scary in some ways. So yeah, but I'd just be curious to know as far as technology, how far it's advanced or progressed, and I mean
Hmm.
just how people are getting along really. Because right now it's like pretty bad sometimes. So hopefully it would be better, but yeah, it'd just be one of those things to wait and see, I guess, for now. And
Yeah.
do you have one more movie, or what do you have left?
Yes, I do. And this is speaking about going back in time. So
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite things to do is to watch movies that, show us how people used to live. And one of my favorite shows is like Little House on the
Mm-hmm.
Prairie. And I like watching like Highway to Heaven, that's on Tubi, by the way. Um, so like I saw this movie on Tubi because sometimes I watch, as you know, I watch
Uh-huh.
The Masked Singer on
Yeah.
there, like shows that sometimes I haven't seen on TV yet. like old episodes of things. So I saw, for some reason, Tubi must have known that I was watching Highway to Heaven, and it showed me that there was a movie about Michael Landon, the
Hmm.
guy that used to play like the father in the Little House on the Prairie show. So I'm like, this sounds interesting. So the movie that I watched is called Michael Landon, The Father I Knew. And this came out in 1999, and it was like a made-for-TV movie. And his son was like the one that wrote it, and then I think probably like like produced it maybe
Mm.
because he's produced a lot of other like he's produced some stuff for Hallmark and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So in this, we get to see like what Michael Landon was like as a father, not just like an actor like that we knew on TV,
Uh,
or the characters that he played. And sadly, I mean, the way he was portrayed was that he was really not there for his kids, and he just kind of abandoned his
oh
family
wow.
at times, and that the kids had like hard lives, and he wasn't
Mm.
nearly as pleasant as like the characters that he played on TV. And his family was definitely from the time he was a
Oh.
child, I guess. I've heard he didn't have a good childhood. And then later on, I think he carried a lot of that into his adulthood with the way that his kids were raised and how he treated because he had three
Oh
wives.
wow.
And I think from each of those wives, he had like from the first one, he had one child, and then I think he had four with his second one, and at least two with his third one. And so it was kind of a sad story, and it was kind of sad to see that that was his life. But it was interesting too. But I still give it like 3 stars because like I didn't really like the actor that played him. Like I think you expect a certain like when you know someone
Hmm.
so well or you think you do, you expect a certain someone else. So I'm like, oh, I don't like him. But
Yeah.
probably we weren't supposed to like Michael Landon in this movie either. So I mean, his son also like showed that he forgave him and that he could move on and that kind of thing. So that was kind of cool. But it was like I said, kind of tragic. And so yeah, 3 stars for
Hmm.
that for me.
Oh, okay.
So so we watched a lot of movies from the time that you said, let's watch and see what happens. So I'm just hoping that like whatever we talked about, like all the movies we talked about, we can give people ideas of movies that they haven't seen yet, or maybe shows that they want to see. Because like I pick my movies based on my interest. Like I was interested in Diana. I'm interested in Little House on the Prairie and Michael Landon. Always like to see the painter Bob Ross and his work, and so that's how I pick my movies. I'm very like selective, and so I know everyone picks different ways. So I just hope that maybe we can inspire you to pick movies that will make you happy or at least make you think. So that was our show today. And Luis, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, pretty much like going on that same thought process. Like the movies I picked were based on things that I'm interested in and actors that I like. I guess like Alicia Vikander. That's why I picked that movie. Chris Pratt, and then Alicia Vikander, and then The Rock, and Emily Blunt too. So yeah, like those were the main reasons why I kind of chose those movies. And then like I mean the themes too, like kind of like nerdy subjects as far as Free Guy and stuff. But I mean whatever your interests are, it's just kind of like you kind of gravitate towards that. So that's pretty interesting. But I mean we saw a lot of movies for sure, and there's tons of movies that we could have picked, but yeah,
Yes.
these are just kind of giving people an idea of what these were about, and for sure, like,
And
hmm
yeah, and definitely I think like if you watch movies with your friends like how we do,
hmm
I think it makes you a little bit more like it expands your horizons kind of thing. Like so I'm watching movies that I normally wouldn't watch because Luis is like, let's watch this one, and I'm like, okay, I guess. And maybe sometimes the same thing, like I'm like, okay, come on, watch In the Heights.
yeah,
So he likes musicals, which is good. But I think like when you have someone else to watch movies with and talk about them with, then you kind of expand your horizon. So maybe if you don't have a friend to
yeah,
watch movies with yet, you can either watch some of the movies that we suggested, think of us as your friends,
hmm
and, or like find someone that you think, like would be interesting to watch movies with and do the same thing that we do because it's fun.
yeah, oh yeah, for
So,
sure, yeah, and like you were saying, like In the Heights, I was gonna watch it eventually, but because of you, I'd watched it a lot sooner than I would have watched it. So, and I enjoyed it. That's probably the movie I enjoyed watching the most out of this time. Like, I enjoyed In the Heights the most, and then Free Guy second. So, but yeah, it was really worthwhile. And then In the Heights, there were several things that I was gonna tell you about Hamilton later because they had like two songs that they kind of referenced. And if you ever watch Hamilton, which I hope you do, you'll kind of pick up on the similarities and the style and stuff. So, no, but it was really good talking to you. You know, hope you enjoyed, you know, the just the movies we watched. And you know, until next time, you all take care.
Yes, until next time.